Cursor shipped a coding model that matches Claude Opus 4.7 at 1/10 the price, built on an open source Chinese base. Anthropic is closing another $30 billion round at a $900 billion valuation. And in the same 7 days, Meta cut 8,000 jobs. ClickUp CEO posted that he's going to 3-to-1 agents to employee ratio with $1 million salary bands for the people who can direct them. The model layer got cheap, the labs got rich, and the org chart got rewritten, all in 1 week. We make the call on who's holding the bag by the end of the episode. Human in the Loop is a weekly podcast where two builders cut through the noise of the AI hype cycle, talk about what actually matters. I'm Matt Wozniak, serial builder and relentless executor. I come from the lens of what works and what doesn't.
And I'm Oscar Gallo, and an AI engineer entrepreneur, and I live in the intersection of engineering and businesses.
So let's jump into it. Signal or noise, the segment where we go through the AI news and talk about what matters and what doesn't. First story this week, very exciting one because we've kind of been talking about this direction for the past few weeks on the podcast. Cursor Composer 2.5 ships at 1/10 the frontier cost. So what happened? On May 18th, 2026, Cursor shipped Composer 2.5, an in-house agentic coding model built on Moonshot AI's open source Kimi K2.5 base, with 85% of the compute budget spent on Cursor's own post-training pipeline. The model scores 79.8% on the SWE bench multilingual, basically tying Code Opus 4.7, which got 80.5, and Edge's Opus and GPT Spud 5.5 on Cursor's own Cursor Bench version 3.1. Pricing is 50 cents per million input tokens and $2.50 per million output tokens. It's about 1/10 the per token cost of Opus 4.7, which is 5 per million input tokens and $25 per million output tokens. So for the first week after its launch, included usage was doubled. And I think this is totally signal, 100% signal. Mostly, like I said, we've been talking about this for weeks now, how the next direction that we see this going is open source models, and they're going to cut costs, and it's going to cause these huge labs to have to find a way to keep up. So I think this is signal, and this is like the first of many that I think we'll see.
100% agree. We here in Human in the Loop, we support the whole idea about open source in general, like intelligence models, whatever you want to do. Like even like open source, I don't know, weapons, whatever. Like we fully support that, you know. And this is because we think that knowledge should not be like gatekeep behind like any ideology, you know. And besides that, we have been talking about how the idea of having one model that we use for very specific reasons will be kind of the future. We even had this discussion with Jackson, right? Where we were saying that like the future is probably like that, like a model that is really good in something and it will probably be really bad at other things, right? So the idea that they took Kimi as a base and then they did a lot of post-training to make it like really, really good at coding is like a testament that we can do exactly the same with these models, right? We can get the new version of Kimi. We train it for, I don't know, pattern recognition or maybe for visual inference, like, you know, a lot of those things that we can do with the models. And we post-train it like hardcore on it. And then we get on the other side like a great model for that specific use case, you know, maybe for writing, maybe for ads, you know, for advertisement, like for many things that you can do this case. But this is something that we had a full discussion before, right? That it's for sure, that's the future for us, you know, like get these open source models, making it better. And hopefully those business that they took the open source model, they will open source their own versions that they did, in this case, Composer 2.5. So people can keep building on top of them, you know, because that is something we support, like the sharing of knowledge. You know, we don't believe in the whole idea that one country will have just all the power, because in general, we like this to everybody, to have their own intelligent systems, to build their own stuff on their home or for whatever they want. So I 100% agree that this signal. This is not only a great win for Cursor, it's a great win for Chinese models and in general for the open source community. Uh, I love it. I tried it a little bit already, and it looks pretty decent, and it's way faster than Opus. Opus takes a long time, to get something done. For some reason, Composer feels just like more, I don't know, just faster, snappy. So yeah, 100% signal for sure.
I I do think it's worth mentioning at the same time, even though I do think this is Signal, and I'm very impressed with this open source model as well, that these benchmarks can be gamed, right? Like
Yeah,
Anthropic got an 80.5, this one got a 79.8. At a certain point, like it doesn't really matter what they score on it because you could build a model that's sole purpose is to pass the benchmark at 100%, but it's like basically unusable otherwise. So take the benchmark percentage with a grain of salt, and you know see how it feels when you use it yourself. Is what I would say, but still
agree.
Signal, I think.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I agree. Okay, let's jump into the second news, which is Andrej Karpathy joins Anthropic. And so this is massive. Okay, so on May 19, 2026, Karpathy announced on X that he's joining Anthropic. He started on the pre-training team under the team leadership from Nick Joseph, with a standard mandate to use cloud to accelerate pre-training research. Karpathy was, as you know, an OpenAI founding member, then ran Tesla's autopilot and full self-driving, and then returned to OpenAI after like a year or so, left in 2024 to start Eureka Labs. And now, well, he's back in Anthropic. Um, I gotta say that I kind of want to hate Anthropic. I'm not going to lie. I love them, their models. We use them daily here. But I kind of want to hate them, because they are like, I don't know, they're very shady in the things that they do. I feel like they're hiding a lot of information, and then they do these weird experiments where they try to make look like their model is like kind of human, which is like complete nonsense. Um, but nobody's going to say that that they suck or anything. Like they have the best coding models in the world, and that's a fact. There's nothing we can do about it. They're great. And if having somebody like Karpathy in their team, they will just make it better, way better. And then that's insane. That's why I think this is signal, because if they already have something as great as Opus 4.6, 4.7, doing all this job, all this great work, in coding. I mean, we're at this point that we haven't coded in months, maybe like at least 6 months. We haven't coded a single line. This is mostly made by Opus now. Yeah, you need to learn how to properly prompt and all that, but the reality is that we haven't coded at all. And now imagine this guy Karpathy getting into Anthropic, making Opus way, way, way better. Probably it's not going to be cheaper because this is how Anthropic is, right? It's just going to be more and more expensive. But it will be great for us, like for the people like us that they really, really use this every single day nonstop, even today, right? Before the podcast, we were using Cloud.
Yeah.
Uh, really is going to be great for us. I like I said, I really want to have Anthropic because they have done a lot of shady stuff lately. They are passing these weird things, so we cannot use cloud minus p, cloud print. When we use inside a harness, right? We cannot use it anymore. If we try to use OpenClaw, we will get kick out.
Man.
Like all those things that the other that you can do that with OpenAI, but they keep doing this stuff that make me angry. But at the same time, their product is so good that you are still there. So it's like, but yeah, it's just signal. This means in the next in the next 6 months to a year, we will get amazing results from this guy and greater models for us. Yeah.
Yeah. No, you just made me think of something, and it might be kind of like a niche analogy, right? Have you ever seen Seinfeld?
Yeah. Yeah, of course.
You you made me think of like you're like they do all this stuff that makes me mad, but hey, they got a good model. It makes me think of the No Soup for You, the soup Nazi guy. Everyone's just standing in line like they don't want to make him mad because if they make him mad, he's like, "No soup for you, get out of here." And that's like us using Anthropic. It's like, I mean, it is good though. And you know, I'm thinking about what you said, right? Like, how big of an impact can one person make on the whole organization? Obviously, Andrej Karpathy, he's made quite a big impact in most of the places he's come from since like he went into the public eye, right? But also at the same time, we talked about last episode how the way these big labs get all these humongous donations and VCs and well, maybe they're not donations, but like investments rather, is by basically getting the big names, right? So like, is this kind of like if the Lakers were to acquire like some like Michael Jordan or something in his prime, right? That it's
Mhm.
more of an investment in this person. And in my opinion, they're trying to get that last $100 billion to reach $1 trillion. And I think them having this guy is going to make a lot of people say, "Hey, we got to start putting money into this now because this is about to blow up." You know, but he does have a track record, and I'm sure he's getting good equity and a very good signing bonus. And like you said, I'm sure he'll bring great value to the project. So
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah. I just realized something that the two stories that we are talking about, they are both focused in the same thing, which is post training,
Hmm.
pre training, sorry. And this is interesting because if scaling is not the main goal anymore, that means we're going to get a lot of this, of change of idea because probably, we already are in that point that there's not enough data to keep training new models, right?
Hmm.
We already stole everything in the internet. So clearly, there's an end to that, but that's interesting for sure. Yeah.
Well, we took everything that's worth taking off the internet. There's a lot of stuff on there that's really not worth taking. Um, but you did mention something. You're basically 100% no code for months now, right? Like you haven't really written a single
Yeah.
line of code. I haven't. I honestly, I haven't either. I do a lot of like architecture and systems level thinking, and I plan things out before I prompt them into Claude or GPT or whatever I end up using it that day. So I've honestly like haven't really written much code myself either, but I've had a lot of great results. And I wanted to point out that this is like possible both on greenfield and legacy systems, right? Like so in Valley Seed, what we do is we go into our clients who think like there's no way AI could work in this. Our system's too complex. It's too, wide ranging. There's too much going on. There's too many factors. And we've proven time and time again, it can be done on any system, any repository, any project at all. It's just the level of effort varies, right? And it's more of a change in the way of thinking than it is a change in the way of coding, in my opinion. So, a lot of times, even if it is a huge project, all it really takes is modernizing your processes outside the code, right? Like there's a lot of tribal knowledge, there's a lot of like bad practices in how you plan out and point your work. And that's kind of the part that needs to change to make your system more AI ready. And we've brought a lot of like non-believers through our clients from 100% code to 100% no code. It's just the amount of time is varied. So I thought that was
But
worth bringing up.
yeah, the key concept here is AI readiness. AI
Hmm.
readiness is one of those things that a lot of times it's hard to explain, but it's pretty much just a few questions and how ready is your team and your code base and your knowledge base?
Hmm.
How ready it is actually to be AI first, right? Because how you write definitions and code and everything is like very human oriented. And while that's okay, and now we're using agents most of the time. So we need to have that duality that it's like good enough so that people can understand what's going on, but we need to optimize for the agents to be able to use these data, this code base in the way that we expect, and also we can be way more productive. We went through this process ourselves, and we got to a point that we can indeed let the agent build ticket after ticket after ticket, and no errors so far, But again,
Mhm.
that process, it's very defined. It doesn't happen in a vacuum. It's not just like, oh, I just say to the agent, do this, and it's going to do. No,
Make no
not
mistakes.
at all. Yeah, make no mistakes, right? And cure cancer, make no mistakes. Like, well, yeah, that doesn't work, right?
No.
So we're actually working in a proper document about like AI readiness that we can share with everybody that's listening to this podcast, so they can have like a general idea about what they can do in their own business. And if they need help, well, obviously you can always like jump into a call with us, and we'll be happy to help you in that process.
Yep. Cool. Next story. Here we go. And it might seem like you're having deja vu, but trust me, you're not. Anthropic is in talks for a $30 billion round at $900 billion valuation. So what happened? Bloomberg first reported on May 12th that Anthropic is in talks to raise at least $30 billion at $900 billion valuation, co-led by Sequoia, Dragoneer, Green Oaks, and Altimeter, each putting in roughly $2 billion. By May 23rd, multiple outlets reported that the round could close as soon as the following week, which would put Anthropic past OpenAI's most recent, roughly $852 billion valuation. Anthropic's annualized revenue went from $9 billion at the end of 2025 to more than $30 billion by April 2026, with expectations to clear $45 billion soon. It's a lot of money being thrown around. And before the show, we went through our show notes to say, like, hey, didn't we cover this? And yes, we have.
Three
We've covered it
times, three
three
times.
times now. And the billions just keep billioning, you know what I mean? And so there's something this whole idea, right? Like, yeah, they're making annualized revenue of $9 billion. Now it's going to be $30 billion. I actually made a post on LinkedIn about this. I mentioned how my daughter, she was born in November and she was 53 centimeters. And then by March, she was 65 centimeters, I think. So I did the math, and she's set to be about 15 feet tall by the time she's 10. That's like how Anthropic is doing math right now. And I just wanted to point out how ludicrous it is. Like, none of this is guaranteed. Your revenue is not always going to continue to rise. Maybe with Anthropic they will, but like, I just think personally doing math this way, it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense to me at all. But it's still very impressive. It's a lot of billions.
Well, I can really see like all these businesses saying like, oh, we are in our round Y. We're getting like 20 gazillions dollars, like it's just
Bajillion.
like these numbers that makes absolutely no sense anymore. Um, and I don't know, it's insane. This is insane. This makes no sense in my head. And yeah, this feels like a deja vu because they got like, it feels like every weekend they're raising a new round.
Mm-hmm.
Like every weekend they're looking for something to get more money on top, which is insane. But if you think about it, I think this is on purpose because they are desperate, all these AI businesses, and what they're trying to do is they are not trying to sell you a $20, $50, or $100 application, okay, or usage. That's not their goal. Their end goal is mostly selling you the idea that they can substitute workers with AI without workers being there. This is what they're trying to sell you. The reality is like the reason why our podcast is called Human in the Loop is because we know for a fact as people that build AI systems that we need somebody in the middle. We need a human in the loop. Okay. Always. Right. And they're trying to sell the idea that that's not anymore a requirement and that they will be able to build the system, that they will just do work. No. But that doesn't make any sense because LLMs cannot even understand like the concept of action and reaction. That if they do something, something else will happen. They cannot. They cannot. They are not that one step ahead. And to prove this, and we have millions of proof that one specific one case that we talk about in the podcast, which was where Opus completely deleted this database from this AI startup. And it just did. It just went through the database and I was like, oh, this database have an issue, delete, and then created a new database, right? And it's like, and the whole idea about why they do not understand like the deepness of what they're doing is because they literally have no idea. Like they don't think one step ahead. They just produce text. They like the whole concept of action and reaction is completely alien to them. Um, and while we love AI, we love LLMs because AI is a very broad thing, but LLMs specifically, uh, we know how bad they are at some things, right? And the whole concept that they will just be able to run these models and they will do everything that we do uh, is not going to work. I was even thinking about this in the weekend. This is a great moment to create some type of insurance against AI agents. Like, I'm not even joking. I'm sure there is going to be a business that they are going to sell insurance for AI agents because eventually it will happen that they will just try to do this, just let the models work on their own. They will destroy things. Things will go wrong. They will lose money, right? And there will be a need to insure these agents, which is insane. But they will try to. I'm sure there's already somebody talking about this in Y Combinator. I'm sure. But yeah, like these numbers make no sense to me. I know they're trying to come for the labor market now. Uh, I think that substitution shouldn't be the goal. I think that amplification should be the goal. But we'll see how this works out. These numbers are insane. Insane.
Well, that's the thing, right? These numbers are unfathomable at this point. They're like we've talked about before. Anthropic's on the cusp of it being a $1 trillion company. So is OpenAI, and it begs the question, right? Like, what is this gonna look like 5 years from now? Because I guarantee they're not going to be a $5 trillion company because that just doesn't it doesn't make sense. I'm putting my hat down. I'm putting my foot down. I'm saying it's not going to be worth $5 trillion. Maybe I'll be wrong. I'm wrong a lot, so maybe I'm wrong on this one. But what's going to happen to these crazy inflated numbers when like an open source model like overtakes them, right? Even if it overtakes them by 1% in the benchmark, right? And even if 10% of their current clientels swap to open source models, locally hosted open source, what's that going to do? Like their revenue's not going to keep going up. Their VCs aren't going to keep paying them, right? They got to find some way to beat these open source models. And with their current infrastructure costs, I don't see it happening. I just don't see it happening. So I'm going to be interested to see. I personally don't think they're going to reach. I mean, they'll definitely reach $1 trillion. I'm sure that'll happen. But with how fast this stuff moves nowadays, like what are they going to look like in even 3 months, right? And it's impossible to know what they're going to look like in 5 years. So that's my prediction. Something's going to happen. They're going to lose value in the next few years unless they do something crazy like a merger, like they release something that they've been working on in secret that really like changes the world, right? If they do that, then I can see them reaching 5 trillion. But in the next 5 years, they'd have to do something totally crazy. Like having a better model isn't going to cut it in the next 18 to 24 months.
That's the point. This is why for me this is noise. Because like you say, a better model is not going to cut it out. Like it's not enough. We are in a moment where a better model won't make much difference anymore. Maybe a better harness, but again, like a better harness will have limitations too, and we'll still need
Hmm.
to have humans. So coming for the labor market, it won't happen. Like when the CEO of Anthropic was saying that we're going to see the first time a case where we're going to have lots of unemployment, but still a lot of growth in GDP. He has no idea what he's saying. I'm sorry that I'm the one to say this, but there are a lot of smart people who are really stupid, and he's one of them in those cases. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, like you said, so I want to go back to what you said about like it doesn't have to be best at everything model. We can have different models that are good at different things. And I think the next like logical step, right, would be for someone or some company or some lab to create like a true orchestration model, which has access to all these like really great models that are good at everything. It's kind of like an MCP that has access to all these different tools, but like on steroids. It's a model orchestration service or tool that has access to all these different models that then have access to all their sub tools, right? Or sub agents or whatever.
Mhm.
I can see that being something in the next few months that someone or one of these labs like announces, hey, we got this new thing. It's like there's no more models. You just talk to this and it chooses the model for you. I can see something like that. But I digress. Okay. Next story. Google I/O 2026. Did you watch it?
Yep.
Their headline was Gemini Spark Agent and Antigravity 2.0. Very important stuff. So what happened? On May 19th, 2026, Google ran I/O. The headline ships Gemini Spark, a 24/7 general purpose agent in the Gemini app that runs on a dedicated Google Cloud VMs and reaches into connected apps. Very long headline. But okay, so Gemini 3.5 Flash at about $1.50 per $9 per million tokens, 1 million context window. You got a 76.2% on the Terminal Bench 2.1, an Anti-Gravity 2.0, a standalone agent first desktop app, and CLI with a managed agents API. One API call provisions a remote Linux sandbox where the agent can plan, run code, browse the web, and persist files. I remember we were both kind of stoked when Anti-Gravity came out. We were both like, "Holy cow! Like it's way better than Cursor." And then like we both immediately like within a month swapped to just Claude CLI and our favorite IDE. So like I think I still have it downloaded on my laptop, but like I literally haven't opened it. If I open it, it's probably like I mean it's probably 2.0 versions behind. Um, but yeah, I mean it makes sense because these are like the preferred development apps of like your local vibe coders. um, but what I've been telling a lot of people, especially when I work with developers who are like seasoned engineers who are wanting to get associated with AI, they're like, what do I use? Do I use Cursor? Do I use the Copilot plugin? Do I use this? I always tell them the same thing. I say, you're already a developer, right? You don't need all these like plugins. You don't need like a special chat window. Just use the CLI. It's faster. It's more efficient. It hallucinates less because it's got less to focus on with the specified chat. Makes like the little windows for all the code changes. And I tell them the same thing. I just say, you're a seasoned developer. You know how to use the commits. You know how to view changes. You know how to look at diffs. Just use it in CLI. Let it make whatever changes it wants, and review the commit like you would. It's just your own code. And that's what I
Mhm.
do. That's what once I explain that to a lot of these engineers, they're like, okay, that makes a lot of sense actually. And they immediately uninstall the plugin and they start using CLI and they see better results like immediately. So there's one tip for you. But will I use anti-gravity? I probably still won't. I don't know. It's really not like they're cool and I like them. I think they're a bit gimmicky, but like, it's not at the point where someone like me who's been a like software engineer for 15 years now, I don't need anything like that at this point, unless it can do something crazy for me. Even the provisioning a remote Linux sandbox where the agent can do all this stuff, I can do that myself using like Docker, or I can set up a VM where I have Linux and I just deploy it there and I call the model from my computer by SSHing or whatever I want to do. It's just I don't need to do that, and I think it's cool that it can do it, but for most people, it's overkill. I don't think they necessarily need to do that unless they're running it on like a really bad computer, which if they are, then this is the least of their problems, in my opinion.
Mhm.
But I do still think I still think it's interesting. This is definitely the direction that we're going, right? We're getting agentic first software. agentic first laptops, agentic first programs, and that's just the direction we're going. And Google is on the forefront of it.
I think you hit the nail because in reality here we have several very big news, okay? And you can see that it's a change of how Google is thinking about the future, and it's going to be a really like agentic first type of thing, okay? The
Mhm.
first one is that anti-gravity was changed to anti-gravity 2.0. Anti-gravity 2.0 doesn't even have a view for code.
Mm,
I'm not even joking about it, okay? I
I didn't know
already
that.
download the thing and the whole thing, okay? The Anti-gravity 2.0 doesn't even have a code, a view for code. The whole idea is that you won't see the code anymore. And this is a reflection a lot of what they're trying to do with ChatGPT Codex application. The idea is that you worry less about the outcome of the code or the quality of the code, and rather you focus on does this work as you want or not. That's all you need to know. Which is a little bit insane for somebody that is a software developer and building these things. It freaked me out a little bit, but I think that they're trying to push this future that it will happen because the reality is like most people have no idea about how to manage these things. And the more power you give to them, the more people will be able to get on board on these tools, right? So it got divided by the Gravity 2.0, which is like this agentic view that has no code. You cannot see the code anymore. And now you have Antigravity IDE, which is the old one that we were using now. They changed name. And on the IDE, it's kind of the same, just a little bit better, it's not bad at all. I still use it sometimes, not gonna lie to you. But here there are two bigger news that I feel like we need to make a little bit more like I don't know, like noise about it. The first one is that the Gemini 3.5 Flash, from my point of view, is a complete failure because it's 3 times more expensive than Composer 2.5 from Cursor, and it's
Worse.
actually worse. Okay, so and look, I love Google, okay, in a lot of ways. But this was not the killer model that they want us to believe. That's the reality. But there's something great they did, which is in the same Google I/O, they launched the Gemma 4 models, the new open source models, completely open source. In the beginning, I didn't want to use them with Gemma 3 and Gemma 2 because they had this weird license, that still like it's complicated. Licenses suck. But this is the first model that is actually Apache 2.0, fully open source, so you can use anytime, any moment you want. And they have 4 versions, I think, and one is so small that you can run this on your phone, which is like amazing. You can run this in a Raspberry Pi. You can it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. So I'm rather more excited about that because this is something that we can do cool things with it. We can do post training. We can do a lot of those things, right? And rather get something better than the Flash 3.5. That is not actually a great product. I gotta say. But yes, it's a combination of news. Really, is like the whole Gemini Spark agent, which is like their own running agent. It is like the Open Claw from Google, then Antigravity 2.0 being this tool that is pretty much no code 100%. And then the change of Antigravity, the original one, to the name to Antigravity IDE. And then we have the Gemma family of models, which is at least today one of the best open source models that we have there outside. So it was a great Google I/O, I would say.
Hey, when they named this anti-gravity, do you think they named it anti-gravity after they had plans to send AI processing power into space?
That's a great
You saw
question.
that?
I don't know. Probably not. But
No,
it
they're talking with
looks it
SpaceX, right?
Yeah. Like it looks like in line, that they are going to use
Yeah,
that for sure.
which that's kind of scary, right? They're like sending TPUs into space. Super weird.
We're going to have a Dead Star soon. You're going to see. We're going to have a Dead Star. I can't wait.
No, but so to be honest, I didn't know that Antigravity 2.0 doesn't even have like a code viewer window. That's terrible for me, I think. Just because, I mean, when you're working on like really complex stuff, like you need to see the code that it's building, right? And
Mhm.
for vibe coders, sure, you don't need to see the code. It doesn't matter. You just keep saying, this doesn't work, fix it. This doesn't work, fix it. This doesn't work, fix it. And then if it doesn't work, then they move on to their next vibe coded project. But like for engineers, like you need to see the code, especially on large, complex projects, right? You need to make sure that it's got data integrity, it's got rollback features, it's everything you need. It's seeing the code is totally crucial for me, at least for the stuff that I work on. And I'll never be able to be like I know I said earlier our goal for our clients is to get them into a no code solution. I didn't mean it like that. I didn't mean like they don't ever see the code. I mean like you don't have to write the code anymore. And it's a lot of times like the people I work with when they're begin using AI like after the first few weeks, couple months, they start texting me like, man, I'm like, Matt, I'm like worried that I'm getting worse at coding. Like I feel like I'm becoming a worse engineer. And I don't think it's the case at all. I think it's elevating people from having to sit there writing for loops, writing switch statements, right? Like creating boilerplate code for the things they want to get done. And I think it moves the demand from, okay, I got to write this code to, okay, I got to think through this system and I got to think about all the edge cases. I got to think about the throughput. I got to think about the best way to design this. And I got to make sure that I can explain it in a way that a model can understand how I want it built. Right. And I think that makes you a better engineer, actually, at the end of the day.
Yeah, because you're better at communicating the idea. The reality is like there's a lot of people that they have no idea how to communicate anything really. Uh,
Yeah.
w- we have worked before with people that if you ask them to explain any concept or like how things work, they will just freak out and not do anything. They will tell you, "Well,
Or
it
they'll put a
works,"
whiteboard, very
Yeah,
complicated
like
design pattern.
it's insane. It's insane, So yeah, in my head, engineering is not writing code. It's not writing a for loop, right? It's
Mhm.
thinking. It's systems. It's
Yeah,
all those things, that have nothing to do with the manual labor of writing the code.
totally agree.
So okay,
Totally agree.
let's go into the news number 5. This is going to be the last one for singular noise. This one is going to be complicated. I'm just letting you know from right now. So we're going to call this the AI labor reset week. Okay, why? Because Meta, ClickUp, Intuit, Cloudflare, all of them they cut people. Like we're talking thousands of layoffs. So just in 1 week, all these companies they cited AI layoffs, right? AI cuts. I'm not meaning that they are going to cut the use of AI, but rather people. So Meta began a company-wide layoffs of roughly 10,000 people. With an round plan for 2026 this year. But this is the largest cut since 2022, 2023. And you need to take into consideration that those years were the metaverse failure. So this is even worse, right? And about 7,000 workers are being redirected into a new AI teams under this new kid that came, not too long ago, Alexander Wang, for the super intelligent labs. So yeah, this is every business is doing like all these layoffs, right? And then later, like on May 22, ClickUp CEO Seth Evans posted on X that they are going to cut 22% of their workforce, which is insane, because they want to build a 10x organization, 100x organization, I mean. Uh, so they say that they're already running around 3,000 internal AI agents, which is 3 to 1 agents to employee. But here comes like the case that we were doing before, okay? Which is like there are right ways to do these layoffs and there are wrong ways of doing these layoffs, okay? The worst one is Meta, okay? Meta is like an episode of Black Mirror, like dystopian as it is, like evil, completely like nasty stuff, okay? So Meta, they send their workers to work from home and they were being surveilled 24 hours with cameras and everything, okay? Just working like, while being like literally like a camera looking at you the whole time that you're working, which is insane. And then after like like 6 months to a year, I don't remember how much, like all these people got fired, right? Which is like these 8,000 people. Okay, this is like the worst type of business that you can imagine or even work with, right? 8,000 people lay off just because after being under surveillance for months. That should be illegal. Just to clarify, you should not let anybody do that. Okay. But there are wrong ways, okay? Like the worst way is the meta way, okay? Never do that. Then you have the Cloudflare one, which is like, yeah, we're going to fire you, but we'll give you still some benefits after we fire you, so you can find a new job. And then there's the best way to fire people, which is the click up approach, right? The case that they're making is, yes, we are more productive with AI. And to prove that we're more productive, okay, and that we're making more money, is we're going to increase your salaries, okay, because you're being more productive. And the more AI you use and the more productive you are, the more money you're going to make. And their idea is that the salary bands, they are up to $1 million cash, okay? Because the idea is that you can be a 100x impact engineer, whatever you have there, right? So I think that's the best way to do it because you are not just telling people, hey, use AI because it's going to make you more productive. And because you're more productive, you're going to gain more money, right? Instead of being like Meta, which is, oh, we're going to remove you from this position. We will close these positions and you won't have a job anymore, right? Like people, you need to give reasons to people to embrace and like AI instead of making them more angry and rejected AI in general. Okay. And a big part of why so many people hate AI is because of all these CEOs. That's the reality. Okay. And look, we are founders too. Okay. Like we know how hard it is to manage a business, hire people, fire people. Okay. All those things. But the more you take the wrong approach on this, the more people you will have against AI. And the more people you have against AI, the slower your economy will be, the slower your growth will be, the worse for everybody will be. So in that process, there needs to be, let's call it like a moral agreement, like what happened with ClickUp, that they will be like, yeah, we don't need that many people anymore because we are 100x more productive. To prove that we are more productive, we are going to actually increase your salaries in the amount of productivity that you're producing. And that's a great approach. I love it. I think that's the only way that we should probably take this into consideration. Because otherwise, I think that as society, we're just going to get a lot of people very angry. And believe me, people won't just sit down for a long time. If you think you can have 20% unemployment with AI taking the jobs and you won't have angry people doing horrible things, you are wrong. You're wrong.
Yeah.
And in that process, you can easily end up with a freaking communist president that will take everything. And that's it. The growth is dead, the progress is dead, everything is dead, and it can easily happen. So we need to bring better solutions for these cases. And I think the ClickUp CEO probably hit the nail 100%.
Eh, I think he did better than Meta, but that's not hard to do. I think
Yeah.
g- given the people who you keep around higher salaries for doing more work and being more efficient, that makes total sense. But at the same time, um, like what was the severance package like for all the people they laid off, right? Like, did they leave them high and dry, or did they give them like something to work with for the next however many months it's going to take to find a new job, right? Because listen, I'm as American as it gets, and it truly pains me to point this out. But right now, the Chinese Communist Party is doing more to protect software workers from AI layoffs than any court or regulator in the US or the Western world in general. And we covered it on episode 4. There was a court in, I think it was Zhengzhou or Hung, somewhere in China. Like, I have to check my notes. But
Mhm.
they deemed it illegal to fire people because AI can do their job. And that's the only story like it I've seen. I haven't seen anything like that in America. And it's ironic that 2 weeks after we cover that story, American companies fire 13,000 people en masse from some of the biggest and wealthiest companies in general. And it's horrifying, right? And even though Meta is an awful company, they actually
It
tried to hire
is.
me once, and I turned them down. I said no thanks. I really don't want to. And reading the news, this week, I'm kind of happy that I didn't because otherwise I would have had to move to California for the job, and I'd be sitting in California probably laid off, or maybe I'd be one of the people hanging around. But even if I was, I'd still be looking for a way out the door because it seems horrifying, right? They would have fired me for the sole reason that I wouldn't have allowed them to film me all day at work. I would have. You can buy a 10-cent camera cover, put it on your camera, and yeah,
I,
I'm just glad I turned them down. I would not have liked working there. I don't think. Um, but how bad is this going to get? And like to your point, right? Like I know people have been out of work for over a year, right? And now there's what was it? 100,000 people like this year so far have been laid off across like 150 something companies. I remember reading that data point somewhere in our
yeah,
notes, and we're not even halfway through the year.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
how bad is it going to get? Like where are all these people supposed to do, right? Like where are they supposed to go? And is it really that AI is just so good that these companies like they're like, oh man, these engineers that we got hanging around, they're 100x devs. We're paying them 15 times more. And but like if you're one of these people getting $1 million salary from ClickUp, I'd probably keep looking for a new job because the next downturn they have, that's a that's a big that's a big line item to add for the company, right? If you're getting $1 million salary.
Like I feel that there's like a lot of talk about this because some people will tell you, oh, well, we actually overhired and
Hmm.
we have very low margins. But again, if you overhire because you just got a new round of money and you just need to spend money, that was a very stupid way of doing things. Okay. And
Hmm.
and and if you're a CEO, you're supposed to check for future proof like solutions. Okay. And in a moment like this where we can see technology, okay, going fast, doing so many things, the right way will probably be to not to overhire, but not to overhire first and then fire everybody. Just from the beginning, okay? Make the case. Like if you are the CEO, okay, it's like, hey, because technology is going really fast. Even if we get this new round of, I don't know, $300 billion, whatever, like we're not going to hire more people because we think that in the next 6 months, a lot of things will change, right?
Hmm.
That's a better approach than just like hiring a lot of people, then firing a lot of people, then like hiring a lot of people, then firing a lot of people. Because
Yep.
the market looks really bad when you're having these processes that makes absolutely no sense. Okay. And 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 I agree with something that they say in Y Combinator. I don't remember if it was the guy Dan actually who said this, that eventually we're going to see the first $1 billion business. And I 100% believe this. Like I
1
fully
trillion,
believe
you
it.
mean?
Okay. Yeah, one person, $1 billion
Oh,
business.
okay,
Like
okay.
just one person. Like
I
I'm
thought
sure we're going to hit that in the next 10 years. I'm sure. But now that's not the question. Okay. Like that will happen. We know it's going to happen. Okay. So the idea is how you manage a future where you will need to know how to hire people that are like proficient in AI that can do great things, right? But at the same time, that we don't get this idea of hiring a lot of people, then firing a lot of people. Like, look, on purpose, we are a small team. On purpose, we are a
Mhm,
small team because we were able to see this from the distance. That this is going so fast. Like we were able to code, I would say at least 20 to 50 times faster since we are getting like heavy usage of cloud code and all that, you know.
mhm.
And the proof is what we have. We have right there. We have Carmel. We have here AM. You know, we have our service on top of that. You know, the reality is like we are way more productive, right? But we were able to see this from far away. For us, it was so it made sense because if we will think about it 2 years ago, we will imagine no, there's no way we're going to have an agent that is going to be writing 100% of my code. Never, right? And then we
Yeah,
are here now today that I have been write a single line of code in 6 months, right? So of course, right, we need to be a little bit like more calmer, smarter at the time of like hiring and stuff like that. And if we get a, a good round of investment, instead of trying what we were doing before, which was like hiring a lot of people to try to force growth into the business, we are in a new era. We cannot do that anymore. We need to be smarter. And I don't mean that you need to hire 100 agents. No, 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 no. You need to show people how to properly leverage AI so they can be more productive, right? But make that case for it. Make that case. Like, don't expect people to arrive knowing AI, being great at AI, so you can just fire them a little bit later because you overhire again, right? Like
yeah.
they need to be smarter about this. Like they don't understand that the human side of the whole uh, like tech business and stuff, like it's horrible. Like it's horrible. Okay, like we're in a point that I don't know if half of the AI CEOs are lizard people, you know, because they're super weird, all of them. It's insane. Uh, but the more we detach ourselves from that human part, I assure you, we will get some like communist thing going on eventually. And the growth of those political movements are usually because of cases like this. And don't get me wrong, okay? Like these people voting, like in New York with this communist mayor that makes no sense. It won't make their life better. It will make it worse. But if they feel that they only have one way to go, they will go to that side. And that's what we need to stop, you know, like we need to be smarter. We need to promote and use tech as a arm, as a power for growth, for human growth, for progress, right? Not for just hiring and then firing a lot of people. That's just my point of view.
Yeah, I wanna go back to something you said, right? Like, these companies, they get, like, all their money. They like, "Holy crap, we got all this money, let's hire all these people, and then we'll find all this work," and then they get towards, like, the end of the fiscal year, and they're like, "Ah, crap, like, we gotta fire people." And, it makes me think, right, with how fast things move, like, even you said 2 years ago, like, I was using AI to help me with my code 2 years ago, and I've been using AI to help me with my code ever since ChatGPT went public, and it's for sure evolved. Like, there's no way even 2 years ago it could have done anything that it's doing now, and I'm sure 2 years from now it can do stuff that it can't do today. But, with how fast things move, maybe some of these legacy models of, like, financial planning, if you're like a CFO like, a legacy company and you do your analysis, you do your planning, like, for every fiscal year, maybe you need to increase the cadence on that. because of how fast things move. Like if you plan something for the fiscal year and you allocate this much money for this team and they blow through all their tokens by Q1, are you going to fire people or like what are you going to do, right? So like maybe the cadence at which you do your financial planning needs to be at like a more brisk pace, right? Maybe you need a faster feedback loop on how you do your financial planning. And we've helped companies with this in a way because they do have these people and they're like, hey, like we need to optimize like token costs. Like it's going too crazy right now. And like we work with them, we say, here's some options you have, here's how much it'll cost, and here's how much you got to allocate every quarter for it. But then there's the other companies that say, hey, we got all these people, we don't want to let them go, we want them to get better at AI. And we're like, okay, bring us in. We'll do some like tutoring, we'll do some courses, like we'll do live demos with your teams on the code base that you're working on, and we'll get them up to speed. And there's a lot of ways to go about it where you don't have to fire people, and it's really on the leadership to be on the forefront. Like it's if you're firing people as a retroactive like reaction to something, there's nothing you can do because you didn't have the foresight to say, hey, we're heading down this path and we got to veer off of it before we start having to shed people from the team, right? And the teams that we've worked with, when we first meet with them, right, they're like, hey, we're worried about next fiscal year, and we see how many months you got, and they're like, we're 10 months out, but like we already see that it's going to be trouble. And
Mhm.
this is the type of stuff you can't like jerk the wheel at the last second because you're going to crash, right? You gotta smoothly transition to the direction you want to go. That's all I'll say.
Yeah, just for context, that part we call it AI, AI enablement. We have services like
Yeah.
AI readiness and AI enablement, and the AI enablement part is like how we teach you to properly use AI to get the best results with AI, because spending tokens is not doing great work. Okay. And whoever tells you the opposite, like that is proud, oh, we spend 4 million tokens, those people are dumb. Okay. I'm not joking. I'm sorry if I offend somebody. Okay. But that's like taking, I don't know if you know, like, well, you can do this with the iPhone too, right? You can put shutter mode, right? Which is just you hold the button, right?
Uh,
And you take like a million pictures, right?
yeah.
And let's say that you put a goal that, oh, I need to be like a better photographer, so I'm going to take
Hmm.
pictures daily, okay? To put more practice and understand better, right? And instead of
Yeah.
actually putting real effort and trying to understand how the camera works, what is the exposure, right? What is like the ISO, like all those things. Instead of that, you just call the button, takes a million pictures, and then you say, "Look how great of a photo." Yeah, exactly.
I took
How
10,000
great of a
photos.
photographer I am. I just
Like,
took 5,000 photos, right? Like I am the best photographer in the world. No, you are
yeah,
not.
that's a great analogy.
Yeah, like quality doesn't matter. Quantity doesn't matter if the quality is low. Let me repeat that.
Yep.
Quantity doesn't matter if the quality is low.
Felt
Okay.
like a big
You
thing
need to
across the
understand
screen,
this. More
big letters.
tokens doesn't mean better outputs at all. So this is why we have this AI enablement courses we're giving, because we understand that more tokens is not better. And if you as a business, you have a goal that you need to spend like token maxing, some people say, right? Like it's insane. Like
Token maxing.
yeah, it's like yeah, token maxing. We're spending like we're going to give you money if you spend more tokens. No,
Yeah.
okay, please don't. Okay, that's not the real goal. Okay, please, you can email us. We're going to help you. Don't worry about it. But again, the goal needs to be to improve, not just to spend tokens, one of those things.
Correct. Correct.
Okay, so let's jump into StackCheck. Okay, just for context, StackCheck is like we have a discussion about one library, one tool, or workflow that it really changed how we work, and that we adopted like personally. Okay, in the last 30 days. Okay, uh, there's no sponsorship. We won't accept sponsors ever, even if this grows to whatever size. Okay. There's no affiliate links. It's like we use it if it's stuck with us. then we talk about it, and if it doesn't, we just let it go, right? So that's the concept of this segment. So to start, we're going to start with convex. Okay. So long story short, we found about convex like some, I don't know, like a year ago, maybe something like that. And a lot of people didn't like it. Because they were, this is just a framework on top of Postgres. And I was like, well, Postgres is great. So I don't get the issue, right, with that thinking. Uh, but the reason why we like it is that we saw from back then that this was going to be a great stack for AI processes and workflows. We just knew it was going to be great for that because it made sense, like the components, like the parts that they have, it made a lot of sense. Okay. So it's pretty much like kind of a backend of the service, okay, in a lot of ways. And they have Postgres in the database, but this is real time, which is amazing, right? So we can be listening to the events and we get real time updates. And this is great for a lot of stuff that we work already on. Because, for example, if I'm working on something inside one of our systems and Matt is working on something and Henry is working on something, we can see in real time the new things that we're adding. If we add like a new client or CRM, we can see instantly the new client. Like there are a lot of like very useful things that about having reactivity in your database. So they have a real time database, and it's not like the one from Firebase. Firebase has this issue that is like document-based database that has this weird limit of 1 megabyte, and it's weird. Okay, it's just weird all over the place. That's not the case with Convex, but we really like that. And besides that, they have like server functions, which is like queries, mutations, actions. You have durable scheduled jobs. You have file storage. And then you have like their own agent component that you can use for a lot of the agents. It's not bad. I think it could be better, but it's something that we have used before. And then on top of that, you have workflows, which is something really interesting that they are very useful in the era of AI, to the point that even Vercel now, they launched their own workflow framework that you can integrate into Next.js, which is that in the era of AI, we have multi-step processes, and we need to know when something failed, okay, in that process. If we have, for example, I don't know, we're calling 7 functions inside one function and one of them fail, well, that means that now that function is killed, is dead. Like, why? Because something failed inside that process. With workflows, that doesn't happen, right? With workflows, that function fails and then it tries again. And we can actually put like even rules about, okay, I need you to try at least 3 times for this specific case to know if it's really failing or maybe there was something weird going on there. So these whole like workflows, they were very useful for like very heavy agentic processes of multi steps that we have, and they just make a lot of sense. So of course, when we read about the whole thing, we start applying this into smaller projects, right? Until we eventually use Convex in a lot of our bigger projects because it just makes sense. And they have like this component for authentication that you can integrate with WorkOS, which is probably the best enterprise authentication platform in the world, to the point that even OpenAI and a lot of these businesses, they use it, right? So yeah, this is a technology that we use daily. This is not something that we are just talking about it or anything. We'll never get paid to this. Um, but it's a great technology for this new era of more agentic use. Uh, in a world where most of the technologies, they are not really adapting that fast, and they use the strengths of the old technology, which in this case is Postgres, which is a great data, the best database from our point of view, really. And everything is like is TypeScript oriented. It's type safe, it's easy to use. It just makes sense. So I'll say that it's great. It's something that we use every day. And if we can, we will use this with clients. So that's a tool number one.
I do agree. I was kind of against convex when you pitched it. I remember being like, "What is this? This looks horrible. Like everything's in one file. Like that doesn't even make any sense at all." And it was like a shift for me because, like I said, like being a systems thinker, being an architect, I'm thinking like tables, databases, like joins, queries, and having like cleanly section database, right? And that's still important, but I think the thing is, right, everything's in one spot and it's easy for your agent to get all the context it needs in a very small amount of like context tokens, right? um the only problem is, right, after a certain amount of time using convex, you're basically locked in. If you want to switch to something else, it's going to be a lot of work. so so it's like,
It's open source, so you can self-host it, but it's true that it's not easy to self-host. Like you need to put some effort into the self-hosting. Like it's not going to be
yeah,
just take your Postgres database into a new server and that's it. Like you're done.
yeah,
That won't be the case.
yeah. So I think it's worth looking into. It's definitely interesting. I've used a lot of databases in the back. I've used SQL, NoSQL. I've used Mongo. I've used, man, I always forget the name of this one. Oh no, Elasticsearch. That's the one. And that one was interesting. That one's like you store things as like documents. It's like super weird, but I actually liked it. It was what we used it for was a really great use case. Um, so yeah, I like convex. I think we're gonna keep using it for our projects unless something like really catches our eye. We have like a really unique use case. Then we might switch it up. But so far, convex has been doing it good. I'm gonna keep it around. Okay, for the tool that I'm bringing today, I've had so many people message me about this. They keep sending me this repository. I finally downloaded it. I gave it a look, and it's actually pretty good. It's the Matt Pocock skills repo, the skill handoff specifically. It's the skill directory. So it's an open repo of Cloud Code skills from Matt Pocock. If you've been looking up anything of AI, you've probably seen him give a talk or YouTube video or some type of demo. Everybody's seen him, I'm sure. The headline skill is skill handoff. So instead of running /compact when a session is about to hit the context limits, you invoke the skill handoff skill. And the current agent writes a structured brief, which includes the current goal, file pointers, open questions, next step intent, what to ignore, et cetera, et cetera. And you hand that brief to a fresh agent. The new agent picks up at near zero context with the parts that actually matter. I've actually done this myself. I did it quite a bit. So like when I read this, I was like, oh yeah, that's cool. Like I do it all the time. Like if my chat's getting too long, it's taking too long to reply, I just say, hey, write up like a short write up, everything that's important of like this combo we've had. I'm going to take that to a new chat, and it just gives me this big long file. So I'm happy that he made this skill handoff because a lot of people might not think of doing that. So this skill handoff, it basically replaces the compact for any long session. I'm sure you've seen it. You're using Claude for a long time, or I'm pretty sure even GPT does this, where you send in a message and like suddenly everything freezes and like this little bar keeps going across the screen and it says compacting, 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 and then like boom, it replies, and then it doesn't really work because 3 messages later it's like boom, compacting, compacting, compacting. So it's like once you hit the compact limit, you might as well just throw everything out and start all over. But with this new skill handoff, you don't have to. You call the skill handoff and it cleanly starts a new chat for you with all the important context. So that's super helpful. So the /compact, it's not that great because it's a black box summarization. You don't know what it tells, what it gets rid of, and a lot of times it gets rid of something that's super important for the combo. And once it's compact, the combo is pretty much dead. The skill handoff is an explicit hand-shaped brief, so you control what the discard is. Arguments any multi-hour coding session where, or augments any multi-hour coding session where the messy middle, which failed attempts, debugging tangents, dead ends, like going back and forth on different solutions, is the part you actually want to throw away. You only want to keep the important things that you actually kept, right? And I do this as well sometimes. Like if I'm working on a solution, something's not working, I try like 3 or 4 different fixes, or like I'm like analyzing like a bug for like one of our clients or something. Sometimes it could take a while, especially depending on how in like involved some of our clients' code bases are. And I'll try so many different things. And once I finally get it working, I'll tell the chat, be like, hey, give me a write up of everything we tried, but what ended up actually working, so I can make like a nice write up for this so I can hand it off to the QA team or whatever. Um, so why does this matter? The compact skill, it's horrible. This skill handoff is actually pretty useful, and also, like I said, you can modify it, you can specify it yourself because it's in a skill.md, which you can read yourself. Did we get into skills last episode? I don't think we did we? I don't remember.
No,
And then
no,
no
we
jargon
didn't. No.
required. Maybe that's a good one for a future one. But quick summary of what a skill is. It's basically like a custom prompt. That's really all it is. It's just a very long prompt or very short. It's just a very specified prompt that you want to run in certain situations, and you're just standardizing it. So, for example, whenever we do this podcast, we post it to YouTube, we post it to Spotify, and we have multiple websites. We got for Carminaut, we got for Here I Am, we got for Valley Seed. I got my Wazwise. Oscar has his Oscar Codes Life. And that's right there. The ones I just list off, that's 5 websites. We got to update every time we get a new podcast. And it's with AI, it takes maybe 30 seconds per website, maybe a couple minutes. But I was personally sick of doing it. So I built a skill myself last week, actually. I debuted it in our team Discord. And I said, hey guys, check this out. I ran slash new episode. I gave it the YouTube link. I gave it the Spotify link. And within 3 minutes, all 5 of those websites updated with the new episode. And the important thing is it's updated with the new episode, but each website kept its distinct styling, which is huge, huge. And so now I run one skill, give it the links once the YouTube and the Spotify are done, walk away from the computer, come back, all the websites are updated perfectly. That's like a good use case for a skill, I think. Um, this skill repo, I think, is awesome. I looked through a lot of the skills. A lot of them are really cool. But I think the important thing for this is for people who are new to AI, or even like some seasoned AI users who haven't really built skills themselves or built repeatable workflows. I think it's worth looking through them and like digging into the guts of them and saying, what is this actually doing? Like, I want to read the prompt as it's written, and, starting to change your mindset to like, maybe I don't need to build a program for something. Maybe I don't need to make like a whole new repository. Maybe this can just be a skill. And like, that can be a nice change, right? Like, before AI, we used to build methods, we used to build functions, we used to build classes. Now we can just build skills. And I think it's a change in mindset for development and engineering in general. So I'm definitely going to keep it. I'm going to keep an eye on the things that, other skills people do that are open source, but at the same time, I'm going to continue developing my own skills. And by that, I mean skills for the agent. I'm also going to keep developing my AI skills as well. But yeah, I think it's worth doing. And like I said, I've been doing it. But maybe some of these I just didn't know I was doing, right. Like I was doing that context handoff, but I didn't think to make it a skill because a lot of these skills are just like a short prompt. So you can make it a skill file and then you just call the slash skill name. But some of them, if they're so short, you can just type it yourself. But I think it's worth keeping. I think it's worth looking into.
100% agree. Well, in one of the AI enablement courses that we give to our clients, we go through the process of creating new skills, and we help them create their own internal skills that they can reuse through the processes. And we are very heavy on this. Actually, like this whole podcast, the first draft version is created completely by AI, not by us. We pretty much create a skill that we can run on a specific day. It's going to go do the research, do all of the things that we need for, right? And then we just get the draft and of course refine through the process, because again, one of the things we say a million times is like the human in the loop is very important. So this is what we do. We don't want to be just another AI slop podcast. We want to be some like a podcast that actually shares real things, right? So we have our own skills running. We have our skills for the podcast. We have a skill that check how good the SEO of our website is every single time. So we know that we are aligned on that. but even going a little bit deeper here, we're talking about context engineering. Okay, we know for a fact that every agent, it doesn't matter if it has 500,000 tokens context window or even 1,000,000 context window, we have something called the smart zone and then the dumb zone for every agent. And most of these agents are usually around 120, 128,000 tokens good. And after that, they jump into the dumb zone and they start doing a lot of horrible stuff, you know.
Hmm.
And some things that I used to do manually a lot is like to keep track of the context, right? I will just put on Cloud Code /context and see how much I have used and then keep working. And depending on that, you know, I will like clear, you know, the context window or do this, you know, manually. Hey, create a document with this, with it, how what we have done so far, and then after the document is ready, I will just clear the session and then start again, right? But it's great because now you have this skill that you can reuse, and it's actually way better, like you say, than compact. Context is not a good skill. Like it is not. Handoff is way better. So and just for
Hmm.
context, Matt, not you, Matt Poco, right? The other Matt,
There's
he is
Joe.
probably one of the best. The best developers, and his skills to share his knowledge are insane. He's very good
Hmm.
at explaining stuff. I will make the case that he's probably going to be the last person who is going to be making YouTube videos about how to do stuff with coding that is not going anywhere, because a lot of the channels they die because you can just ask Cloud or ChatGPT how to do things. But this guy is great. He knows what he's doing. So highly respect him.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess if you're an engineer, even if you're like a scrum master, right? Or if you're someone who's in meetings all day, right? Think about something that you do regularly that you want to automate. And now you don't need to build a Python script. You don't need to build like a REST UI. You just think about what it is that you do. Is it like, for example, um, if I were a scrum master right now and I run daily stand-ups for however many different teams, they all have their own Jira boards, like Azure boards, GitHub boards, whatever you use. Think about it this way. If you can build like a skill, right, that has access to your GitHub API, your Jira API, whatever. And you can do something like scan your team's board, see what tickets moved, see what commits were made, see what PRs were opened, see how long things have been open. Run it every morning like /stand-up notes. Here's a skill. You run /stand-up notes, it scans all that stuff, generates your report. So when you go to stand up, you already know what your devs are going to tell you. You know what the engineers are going to say. You're going to say, hey, this PR has been open for 3 days. How come no one's reviewed it? Or hey, you've been making commits on this ticket for the past, 5 working days. Do you need help? Just things like that, like to augment your own processes. And this is one of the big things at Valley Seed. We always say, we don't want you to change what you're doing. We want to augment what you're doing. So yeah, I'd say start looking into skills, start seeing what skills you could build for your team to augment your own processes.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Okay, so let's jump into tool number 3. Okay, which is we talked about this news a little bit before, which was a Google Antigravity 2.0 plus the CLI plus the Managed Agent API. Okay, and I will make some separation on this, because there are some things that I like and there are some things that I do not like. I will make my case. Okay. First of all, Google Antigravity 2.0, I like it. Okay, it's not like a massive step from the 1.0, the first version, but it actually feels better. It feels snappier, and in general, it has all these other tools that we had from Antigravity in the beginning. I love it. I still use it. It's kind of funny because I use a lot of the heavy stuff, with Cloud Code, like the coding, the actual like super hardcore stuff, But when I don't want to annoy Cloud with, hey, change the style of this thing, and I don't want to look for it, I just let Antigravity manage this. I'm just going to Antigravity like, hey, uh, there is this weird style, change it to this, please, and we'll go and do the thing, whatever. It's weird because I use it as a side mini cloud code if you want, because I just
Side
want
engine.
like the one that I'm using not to get into other things right now, like you do the heavy backend, and I use like these little things from Antigravity to do some front end stuff, I don't know. I like it. I really like it, Uh, and then on top of this, we have like a massive change from Antigravity, which was the new version of the CLI. And here I will go against Google. I don't like it. I love the idea of the old Antigravity CLI because it was open source. You could use it anytime. And if there was some issue, we'll just go create a PR and fix whatever issue it is,
Hmm.
or even, get a version for us, like it was pretty decent. And they decided to rewrite in Rust. I think something weird, and now it's closed source, just like Cloud Code, and we're going back to this process of like hiding stuff around, and it's so bad, that's a complete miss. I think it's a horrible idea what they're doing with the CLI. Google, free the CLI again, please. Like you were doing great. The people who were working the CLI, they were great people. I think they got fired actually. They got fired. They just decide to rewrite the CLI with this new weird language. It's super weird. I don't know what's going on in Google, but that doesn't go. Um, and well, the managed agents API, it's a lot of what OpenAI and Anthropic has now. So they are just coming to fight the same fight, right? Which is use our agents, don't use Anthropic, don't use OpenAI. And it's pretty decent because Google has very smart people behind, really. Like all these teams from Google DeepMind and all those, like they're amazing. Probably one of the smartest people in the world. Uh, and while I will tell you, you should probably go and check it out and do some experiments with it. This is something that we had a conversation before here in the podcast, which is do not use just one technology ever. Like whatever you use, it needs to be completely agnostic. Because if something stops working at Google, you better have a backup plan. Okay, like don't use Anthropic SDK for agents. Use an agnostic framework that it will let you jump between models and even have backup models for the specific cases when something fails, right? So it's pretty good. Don't get me wrong, okay, it's pretty good. Like Google is actually doing pretty decent lately, but again, proceed with caution, like we always make the case here. So it's cool to see Google Antigravity 2.0, well, the IDE and the no code version that they have now. They are great tools. Maybe not for us that we are like super hardcore engineers, but in general, this will help a lot of people. So
Hmm.
this is amazing. I would like actually to give Antigravity 2.0 to Henry and let it and just
Yeah,
see what he can do with that thing.
yeah,
I'm just
we should
curious,
do that.
I'm just curious. Because he's not non-technical on that side. Well, not technical, like we are technical, right? And it is always like cool to see how deep they can go in how much they can create, And and we are not this type of people that they are afraid that we're going to lose our jobs or something for somebody else using code tools. Like on the opposite, if they can do stuff uh, so we can be free to focus on the main things where we do best, well, we are going to take that. So yeah, that was the tool number 3, but it was rather like a combination of Google tools, really, for
Hmm.
stack check. Go on, check it out. And well, now
But,
we're jumping into
but before we do that, I wanted to
um
say, like, for me, for this tool, right? Like, I don't see myself switching from IntelliJ anytime soon. I the IDE that I switched to would have to be so good that it would like blow my pants right off. You know what I mean? Like I've been using IntelliJ for like 10 years. I tried VS Code, I tried Cursor, I tried Antigravity. The AI agentic like first coding IDEs, they're just not for me. They not yet at least. And like I've said, like you've said, I think it's just because I've been like a real like heads down like fingers in the code engineer for 15 years now, and like I still want to see the code. You know, maybe like I'm gonna be the old guy soon saying like, my day I used to see the code on the screen. Like when I wanted
Boomer
to debug, I
developer,
would
boomer
find it.
developer.
Yeah, well, millennial developer now, right? Like, but like I don't want the code to go away. I want to see the code. I like seeing the code structure. I like seeing like everything. And that's how I debug things still, right? Like, yeah, I run like a debug skill. I run a testing skill. I use Claude, and like, to be honest, with on the Gemini API with the CLI, the Codex CLI, I'm super happy to see competition. That's exactly what I want to see. I want to see 100 different options. But right now, I'm still just going to keep using Claude just because it's got all the context from all my past projects for the past year, and it's hard to build that up again with like a new AI. So for now, I'm going to keep using Claude, unless like I hear something crazy about Convex or GPT or Kimi. Um, but I'd be happy to switch. It's really got to change my life, and the same thing for the ID. Otherwise, I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing because I'm still progressing, I'm still learning, and I'm still becoming more and more efficient as the days go by. So
One
yeah,
funny
no,
thing that
I think
happened to me,
what.
like one funny thing that happened to me, it was that with one of our clients, I remember that somebody shared their screen with NeoBeam, and some of the younglings, they call this boomer view. Like the terminal, they say, oh, it's this boomer view. And I was like, oh my God, don't laugh, I was like, that's brutal, But okay,
Well, I
okay,
think
let's
it's worth.
jump into,
Yeah, let's go.
yeah,
I was going to say, I
let's
think it's worth
jump into,
mentioning, right? Sorry.
uh
I do think it's worth mentioning some of our clients, right? We've seen Gen Zs, like people right out of college, even interns, and yeah, they use AI like crazy, right? And it
yeah,
is impressive to people who don't use the AI, right? They'll be like, man, this kid, he's blasting these tokens. He's generating all these documents. He's generating all this code. But like when you and I sit there and look through the code, we're like, what the heck is going on here? Yeah, it runs and it runs tests, but it's testing this code and this code doesn't make sense. It doesn't do what we want it to do. So, right, just because somebody's like blasting out PRs, just because somebody's like making all these tickets, all these documents, like he made a repository with 15.md files. They all look so cool. It's like, yeah, did you read them? Like it doesn't say anything. Right? So it's something to watch out for, right? Like they're just because
yeah.
somebody's good with AI doesn't mean they're productive for the team, and just because somebody's not bad with AI doesn't mean that they're not productive for the team. Just a
Quality
final
over
thought.
quantity. Quality over
Right.
quantity. We already say that. Okay,
Yes.
so let's jump into unpopular opinion. Okay, in this section, we pretty much talk about like one unpopular opinion that each of us have about a specific situation or case. So in my case, I want to talk about Composer 2.5 by Cursor, and I think that they just proved that the open based model, this is in production already. Okay, like inside 12 months, every serious app layer coding tool will run a post-training open base, not a frontier API, for sure. And a lot of these frontier labs, they keep the rest of the API for businesses, but coding as a service is about to fall off a cliff in price. But I think this is just the beginning of the end, okay? And I don't mean the end of the world or anything like that. I think this is the beginning of the end of the high price tickets, okay? This is only that we said before in the podcast. We believe that intelligence eventually will go to zero. And I know that some people they make the case against us and they say that's not true, it's impossible. But we really believe so. Like we really believe so because the reality is when we see the projection of intelligence per dollar that we were getting very very early and what we are getting right now, we are 100 times better. And I know it doesn't look like so because we have very expensive models like Opus 4.7 that they eat tokens like crazy. But again, we're talking about intelligence per dollar. This is what we should be focusing. And regarding that, man, it's getting good. Like Composer 2.5, which is just uh pre-trained kind of, Chinese model, post-trained, sorry, not pre-trained, post-trained Chinese model uh, that is lightweight, fast, and not great actually in a lot of other things. Okay, like if you try to do other things with this model, they are not great. But for coding specifically, they are amazing after the post training. So I think this is what we're going to see. We're going to see these models, open source, post trained for specific reasons. They're going to do great job. The job they're going to be focused, they're going to be great, and it's going to be very cheap. Okay, very cheap, and we need to keep an eye on this because we say Composer 2.5 is 3 times cheaper than Google Flash model. Okay, 3 times. That's something that we need to keep in mind, and that's not even like the cheapest model that we can get right now. With this DeepSeek B4 Pro, but that's a caviar model again, right? Uh, But if we take a model like DeepSeek B4 Pro, and then we add good post training for specific cases, we can be in that level for everything, pretty much like accounting. A model just great at accounting. You know, and we're going to see the price just keep going down and down, and we are here for it. We love the idea. We would like every person to have their own model in their homes and having just a way better Alexa because Lexa
Mm.
sucks. It's horrible for everybody. So yeah, that's
Yeah.
my unpopular opinion. I think this is the beginning of like the reduction of cost. We already talked about this very early in the podcast, and we can see that indeed is happening. So yeah,
Yeah. No, I totally agree with that. And I was thinking about this, right? Like with these models getting faster and cheaper and better, it makes me wonder how many of these companies signed like sticky contracts with like Claude or GPT or Copilot or any of them. Like if you're like an enterprise company and you sign like a 5-year deal with Claude, like and some new model comes out 6 months from now and it's literally like 1/10 or 1/100th of the price. Like, what are you going to do? You can't back out of that contract cheap for, it's going to cost a lot of
that's
money to
what
back
they
out, I'm sure.
expect.
Yeah. And so that'd be interesting to see. But yeah, definitely I agree with that one. So my unpopular opinion, ClickUp's announcement about their 3-to-1 agents ratio and like we're paying all our devs like $1 million. I think it's just workforce theater for them having a down round. Zeb Evans had to come up with some type of face saving story. So he said, hey, we cut 22%, but we're 100 timesing our org. It sounds a lot better than just saying, hey, growth stalled and we had to find margin somewhere. Most of these 3,000 agents that they have are probably like very simple agents, cron jobs with like a system prompt, right? Like, oh, we need to check like every deploy before it goes to prod. We got to run these tests. It's like, okay, there's an agent. We want to run PR reviews. Okay, there's an agent. Like we want to run analytics. There's an agent. Like it's just because he says he's got 3,000 agents doesn't mean it's impressive. It's a lot of agents, but like, and we've said this time and time again, what are these agents doing to generate more revenue? And I think the fact that he fired so many people, they cut 22%, it tells you they're not making more revenue from this. And these $1 million salary bands, it's a recruiting stunt. And I guarantee by what is it now? It's May. I guarantee by I don't know, September, October. You check their website, they're not going to be hiring anybody, and if they are, it's going to be for 140,000, 150,000 for a senior AI engineer, probably. I just don't see it lasting. And if it is, I'll eat my words. But I think it's optics. I think it's BS, and I think it's totally noise. I think they're having a bad quarter, and they're going to have a worse quarter next quarter, and they're trying to find a way to, generate interest in it and make it seem like it's a good thing. But with a lot of these companies that keep doing these cuts, I think it's not for good reasons. I think they're trying to sell it as good reasons, but it's really not. They're not doing great.
It's about the hype. It's really about the hype. We have discussed this before, like Karpathy joining Anthropic is not, I don't even think is because they like Karpathy. I
Mhm.
think that he's actually a PR stunt to get more money on the next round. That's what I think.
100%.
Okay. And look, Karpathy is amazing. Okay. He's like a million times smarter than I will ever be. Okay. I want to clarify that. Okay.
Yeah.
Uh, but I see this as a PR stunt, right? That they know that he has a weight to increase the value, or at least the perceived value. That's the right
Hmm.
way to say it, the perceived value, right? So getting Karpathy on board means getting more money for the next round and getting a
Yep.
higher valuation. That's what it is really. Because once you have a valuation, you don't go down, you just go higher, right? Because if you go down, you're on bankruptcy and then you need to sell the business. So
Yep.
like like I feel that we're living in this moment where we're going to see a reduction of hiring and a slowing down of that hiring processes really on everything, not only like engineers, whatever, like everything, really, everything. Uh, but a lot of the questions that for me that I don't answer is like how we are actually helping like the smaller and medium sized businesses, which is like 80% of the economy in the world,
Yeah.
do better with these AI products. So now we know that how we're helping the actual person who wakes up every day to work in their business, right? How we're helping them to actually like make their life easier, get better returns on their investment, and not only throw 50, $80 billion every time that Anthropic needs money, of those things
Yep.
that like we need to get on board on building more stuff. I think open source is a big part of that for sure. Uh, but there needs to be a heavier focus on SMBs, like small and medium sized businesses for sure.
Yeah. We want to be at Valley Seed. We want to be the human side of the AI future.
I like how that
So
sounds.
yeah. Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of Human in the Loop by Valley Seed. I'm Matt Wozniak.
I'm Oscar Gallo. See you in the next episode.